that's true. Naked Palpatine.
Oh, you pick that one. Fresh out of the clone tank, nude Palpatine is my
Well, that's the first thing I think of when you say Dark Empire Palpatine.
Hello everybody, I need a weapon, and welcome back to the Halo Expanding Universe. It's going to be a rather short one for you today. I only have two things to discuss. It's going to be very short, nothing crazy. We're pulling a Matt Wilkins with his 4-minute videos. But I have Halo Wars official strategy guide. Why? Well, if you're a fan of the Star Wars Expanding Universe, you know about a couple things, whether it be the adventure journals, or some of those old source books, like the episode 4 source book or episode 5 source book and stuff, where there'd be a bunch of information, and occasionally you'd have a little paragraph of a story. And that exists in Halo Wars, the strategy guide. So I had to at least mention it because it expands upon the story of Halo. Doesn't matter how small it is, it still does it. Did I actually be crazy enough to buy an official strategy guide? I thought about it, but look, I love Halo as much as the next guy, but I don't love it nearly as much as I love Star Wars, let alone other things like Tolkien, which I'll probably buy all of his books eventually too. I just don't have much space right now. So I did find it elsewhere. But it was still, most of it is just, tips and tricks, like a typical guidebook that I guess nowadays a lot of people wouldn't know what that is because they just go to IGN or they look up a Let's Play or a walkthrough on YouTube. But back in the day, back in early 2000s, there's these things in GameStops and other stores like it where you'd have these big hefty books and they told you all the secrets and all the ways to do stuff. I remember back in the day, because I'm so old, the 23-year-old that I am, that I would go and I was playing Silent Hill Downpour, which is a very mixed video game in people's opinions. I think it's one of the best to come out of the American era of, I think it is the best to come out of the American era of the Silent Hill games. Anyway, we're getting off track. But the point is, I got one of those guides for it, and it didn't really have any extended story or anything, but it had a lot of great artwork. It was really pretty to look at. And it was really helpful to me as a 10-year-old playing a horror game that I shouldn't have been playing, but my mom didn't care. Or it was 2012, I've been 11. But regardless, it was just fun to play. And the guide helped me a lot. But so the Halo Wars strategy guide has a couple stories. There's not really anything to know. It kind of has a small story for each and every character that you're going to meet in the game. So there's a small character for the officer dude. There's a small bit for the Asian lady, I forget her name now. That's the main character of Halo Wars. There's a little story for the AI, Serena, that you meet in that game. And then, of course, there's a small little short for Forge, who's the main Marine that we see in Halo Wars that we play as. And actually, apparently has a big legacy in the EU in terms of at least lineage. Maybe not him, but we'll get to that far down the line. But the one story in here I wanted to, kind of mention was that for Forge, it shows him on Earth, and he's getting yelled at because he punched one of his superiors, but the superior was trying to assault sexually a girl at this bar or whatever. So he punches him. But he doesn't get discharged because luckily all the evidence came in that he was in fact guilty. So he's okay. But it was just all the stories were fine. They're nothing to write home about. They're very short. Not enough to really give you a long video summary about it. But I just like that one the most just because she plays that character and it just, I like brash characters like that, I suppose. Because I'm not very brash and I've never been one to kind of impulsively do something like that. But I admire that in other characters. Like Han Solo's another one, or Luke Skywalker even when he's younger. But so it was really cool to see. Not see, I read it, but it was a little cool moment with him. that I appreciated. And it does get referenced in the next thing, which is Halo Wars Genesis comic. Now, I found a YouTube video that kind of showed all the comic panels. This came with the collector's edition of Halo Wars, which is a little prequel precursor to it. So unless you want to go buy a collector's edition for like billions of dollars. But like, I believe it's still on Halo Waypoint, so you could find it there. There's also other websites where you could totally find it and just download it and have it. But this was written by Eric Nyland. Eric Nyland also wrote The Fall of Reach. We get a little mention of Preston Cole, and we learn what the Cole Protocol is. We also have a novel called The Cole Protocol that we'll get to down the line. But this kind of just a thing of, we don't want the Covenant to find out where Earth is or where our major human-centric planets are. So if you're getting chased by the Covenant, make sure to erase all your data. It doesn't matter if you're going to make it out or not. You just do it just in case. Erase all the data. And might bite us in the butt later on, but it's necessary that if they capture you, that they don't have anything to go off of. And if you're going to make a slip space jump to a random location. And you may risk death in doing that because maybe you'll hit a planet or something. But do not make a trajectory toward any system that is well known and has a bunch of populations on it, because then you risk dooming everyone. So they have a whole bunch of rules in place so that way the Covenant won't learn anything about them. And somehow they keep that up for like 20 something years. We get to see Forge. It shows a little comic panel of him punching the dude, so it does reference that little story there, which I thought was really cool. Some continuity there. I mean, it wasn't a big part of the story. It was just like a one-off panel, like showing his past or whatever. But still, it was cool. And he goes to try to save these people. The strips derelict. They're going to Harvest, because Contact Harvest, the novel that I reviewed, just happened, or a little bit ago it happened, and they're trying to reconquer that. That's what Halo Wars is. I think it's just on the planet Harvest as they try to recapture it. He goes on the ship to try to help these other people. There's been a radiation leakage. And there's this cool, like, kind of like George Washington. I don't know if it is George Washington, but like that sort of looking figure, AI, which was just interesting to see. And so, Forge, he saves the people, he gets them off the ship, but they die anyway when he wakes up because they died of radiation poisoning. He made it out because he wasn't exposed to it as long, but, it just really shows the brutality and the despair of this war. And this is a war that just started too. But, the aliens are super bigoted. They don't want any humans in the Covenant, mostly due to the Contact Harvest novel. And he wakes up and like, where are the people? I saved them. They're like, oh, they all died. And it's just a sucky thing. We also get to see the backstory to the Arbiter. Not the Arbiter from Halo 2. There was an Arbiter prior to that one in Halo Wars that dies by the end of the game. Spoilers, not really, it doesn't really matter. But he's a very stereotypical bad guy in that game. But we get to see how he came to become the Arbiter, because he was a super strong Sangheili. He was fighting and winning battles for the Covenant, and he got a little too big for his britches and decided, I'm going to go take on the Sangheili, or the Sanshiyum. I'm going to become the one in charge of everything. And he failed miserably in doing that. But instead of killing him, because he put up a good fight, they ask him if he wants to be an Arbiter so he can work for the Covenant. He's like, and are you bloodthirsty? Do you crave violence? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, okay, well, you could attack a bunch of humans. Like, could you just aim it toward that direction? Because we'd appreciate that. And he's like, sure, bro. That's not how it goes. But I'm oversimplifying it. But that's essentially that. So we get a little backstory to the bad guy of the game, and a little backstory to the characters that we're going to see in the game. So overall, it was a pretty decent little comic. And it's nice that it connected to the other things there. It referenced Harvest and all that. So overall, I thought it was a decent little comic thing. Not too hard to find online if you look for it. And then you could always buy the Game of the Year edition or whatever if you really wanted to, or collector's edition. But if you're a Halo completionist like that. I wanted to mention the stories, but I didn't feel like buying an entire strategy guide just for those little blurbs of story. I'm not that insane. And luckily I don't have to do that for the Star Wars Expanded Universe, because I got Joe Bongiorno's website on StarWarsTimeline.net that will give me all that for free. So, but that's pretty much it. Just want to give you a little thing there. I, of course, do Star Wars stuff. I, of course, do Dune. I do Star Trek. I do a whole bunch of things, and this is just another one of them. So up next, when we return, we'll be rereading Silent Storm by Troy Denning, because chronologically it would be about next, because John's the Master Chief is about 15 there, so that's where I'm trying to figure that all out. So, yeah, Troy Denning, dastardly villain that he is an inside joke between me and some Star Wars fans, because funnies. But yeah, so we'll see how that goes on reread. I've been a lot more analytical and a lot more, not harsh, but I've tried to be a lot more honest and fair about the work that I'm reading, whether positive or negative. So we'll see how I feel about this on a reread. I remember pretty enjoying it. Definitely more than Contact Harvest. We'll see if that remains true this time around. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you when we finish the fight. Till then.